بحلب مدينتي. لسه عم صور. هذا الشيء اللي عم بيخلي معنى لوجودي. ما حدا منا كان عنده أي فكرة كيف رح تتغير حياتنا للأبد.
حمزة، أنا حامل. سما سما
سما، عملت هالفيلم مشانك. بدي إياكي تفهمي شو اللي كنا عم نقاتل مشانه.
بحبك كثير أكثر من في ضرب كثير اليوم.
سما، أنا بعرف إنك عم تفهمي شو عم بصير. بقدر شوف هالشي بعيونك. ما عم تبكي مثل أي طفل عادي. هذا الشيء اللي عم يحرقني القلب. سما،
رح تسامحيني؟
Welcome everyone to I Am Remarkable Week 2022. I Am Remarkable is a global movement that empowers everyone with a focus on women and underrepresented groups to celebrate their achievements and accomplishments in the workplace and beyond. To date, 400,000 people have attended workshops across 170 different countries with 1,000 companies participating. This year, we're celebrating the third global I Am Remarkable Week, which is the highlight event of the year, where we celebrate all things remarkable. This week is running from the 28th to the 30th of September, and you can find all sessions on our website, g.co/IamRemarkable/week. A huge part of the celebrations is our talk and panel conversations. And I'm honored today to be joined by such distinguished and extraordinary panelists to have an open and honest conversations around the global refugee crisis and expand awareness around the human experience. The video you just watched was created by one of our panelists today. And with that, let's move into introductions to this amazing panel. We'll then leave about 15 minutes for questions at the end, so please use the chat box. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Augustine Weah. I'm a Liberian. At 3 years old, the war impacted my family. If you're familiar with the Liberian War, it lasted for about 14 years and displaced a lot of people. And so my formative years from 3 to 4, growing up as a young kid, was spent on the refugee camp in Ghana, where we lived for about 13 years. And so a lot of experience firsthand dealing with living in exile and navigating the challenges of being in a different country, not by your will, or being forced to leave your country. And so some of that conversation will be the thread of today's discussion. We were able to migrate to the US in 2006, 13 years later to Oklahoma, where a new life began, and was fortunate enough to go to school, graduated, started working, and 10 years later in Oklahoma, I found myself here today working at Google. I've been at Google now about 6 years. I work in product strategy. Very passionate about people and the experiences of underrepresented groups, given my identity and lived experience. And so, very excited to be your host today. We have an amazing panelist. First, I want to pass to Wad, the creator of the video that you just watched, to introduce yourself. Wad?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Augustine, for this, knowing you first and having us with this. My name is Wad Al-Khatib. I'm Syrian filmmaker and activist. I'm a mother of two girls, and I live today in London. I'm a refugee in London. I was doing marketing at Aleppo University in Syria 11 years ago, before the revolution started. And I've never, thought of my life in any such way to be in this, should say, changing or not stable. But I think I feel how much things I've been through until now and where I am today. I feel that I'm one of the luckiest people in Syria who survived first, and so many people around me survived, as so many other people haven't. I picked up my camera, my phone, and started filming. I kept filming for the next 5 years of that time, until I was displaced out of my own city, Aleppo, and then out of Syria. I think we will learn more and we will share more as we're speaking. So thank you again for having me, and for you again, Augustine.
Thank you. Vlada, our next panelist.
Hi, I'm Vlada Bontar, or Vladislava Bontar. I'm from Ukraine. I was 14 when Russia annexed Crimea and started the war in the east of my country. And I remember seeing those tanks on our roads and going to revolution. And I remember waking up one day and seeing my father watching the video where our people are being killed, basically, and shot. And I remember feeling of complete surreal world that I was in. So yeah, it was really strange. And I lived in Ukraine for a couple of years, and then I was 24 when Russia started a full-scale invasion. And I also remember waking up in the morning because for a couple of years we were living in psychological terror. Like, we knew that the war is going to start, so that was not a question like whether or not the war starts. That was a question. The war starts. That was a question whether or not, like, when exactly it will start. So I remember waking up on the 24th of February, hearing the jets flying over my house, and thinking, okay, that's it. Well, that's it. What are we gonna do next? So yeah, I was forced to leave Ukraine. I was forced to leave my country and leave my family and my parents, my partners, and to move to the UK just to help my family and just to be safe. So yeah, I moved in the end of April, and now I'm promoting Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian history, and I'm organizing cultural events in Brighton, and I'm also working for West Sussex Mind. I'm helping people like Ukrainian and Polish people with their mental health, which is a huge theme these days, obviously. And I'm also an LGBT plus activist, so I'm trying to do the best I can to help my people and help my country.
Thank you. Thank you both for that amazing intro. I think one of the uniqueness of this panel is that we've all been affected by war, instability, and are now or have lived in a state where we're seeking refuge. And so, given all the things you've experienced through this time with your individuals, journeys, can you talk to us about how you stay motivated? You spend a lot of your effort, helping other people, bringing awareness, and using your talents to impact the world. But how do you stay motivated to keep doing the work that you're doing? What?
Yeah, I think this is really important question because as much as we suffer and we feel like not stable and we feel like really in bad position sometimes, we do feel like really grateful, you know, for the people who are around us, for the people who support us, for the people who they wake up every day, you know, trying to have like a positive change in such situation like Syria or Ukraine or even other places around the world. I think the main thing motivates me was knowing that what we are doing and the cause that we are fighting for is something totally and clearly, you know, like right. I think when the revolution started in Syria, 2011, before this, I've never felt I belong to Syria. I've never felt I'm even like a human being. And the revolution, being with the people in the street, being able to share with them same dream, share country, share even like destiny, is something I've learned because of the revolution. We had so much big dream, big hope that everything will be better tomorrow, and we knew that this is won't be like a like a symbol thing. You know, we knew that the regime would kill everyone who's trying to even dare to talk out against them, and we knew that this is going to be like cost a lot, and maybe it's going to be myself, maybe my family, but we were like able to understand, you know, that this is would be like a bigger price. I think where we are today is not a good place at all, but it's not worse than what we lived through before. It's not like this has started now, and again, I really feel I'm one of the luckiest people. But I think we all around the world, like every country who's suffering from like oppression or like dictatorship or even like invasion, like Ukraine today, all these elements are connected to each other. We have all stake in each other causes and each other like freedom and dignity, and we have all to fight together against this. In the example of Ukraine and Syria, yeah, maybe this the context of how this started is different, but it's at the end the same perpetrator, the same people who are committing crimes. So we have to stick all together. You know, we have to be all together trying to fight. Maybe my hope today is coming from the woman in Iran, you know, not from the reality of the Syrian situation. But I think in every place you always can find hope and you always can keep going. And maybe not to the sake of maybe, you know, like feeling that things would be better, but at least we have to do our duty and our job.
Lara?
Well, I feel like I don't have the privilege of not being motivated right now, because if I want to do things for my country, I can't just give up. So what I try to do is just take care about my mental health. So like I take my therapy, I have my counseling, I take pills prescribed by the doctor. So guys, very important thing. And also communicate with lots of people. And I communicate with lots of people from Ukraine as well. So when I get tired, we can just sit together and cry and hope for the brightest future. And I also agree as well that my inspiration now are, for example, women of Iran. And my inspiration now are people in Ukraine who have left everything behind to go and fight for our freedom and to go for and fight for our kids and to protect our nation. Actually, my inspiration today are women from Ukraine in the UK and across the Europe who left their countries to protect their kids, who are there in new countries without their language, without money, without anything. But they are still trying to do the job. They're still trying to give their kids the brightest future, actually, and they try to keep their kids safe. So when I look at them, I'm like, how on earth, do you do this? Like, really, how? And they are my huge inspiration and motivation. And I just want this all horror to end. And I just want to do my best to help it. So in Ukraine, we said that we, all of us has each own front line. its own frontline. So like we have a frontline, an actual frontline, we have an IT frontline, we have a financial frontline where people are making money, we have a cultural frontline, which I'm a part of. And my colleagues from my cultural frontline help me as well when I lose hope. So they try to cheer me up, and we just try to be together and stay motivated, because we don't have the privilege of not being motivated.
Wow. I think motivation is such a privilege, right? I think, people go through life, and oftentimes the conditions provide you options, right? But the life that you've both lived, and even channeling my own experience, I heard you say, something about a sense of belonging, and leaning on the community to feel motivated. I didn't live through like a war zone, and so um, I'm always thoughtful of the kids that grew up in those environments, right? And what happened to them. If I was in that environment, where would I be today? Would I be a victim of some of those strikes? And so for me, motivation comes from the children of the survivors, leveraging all that I can in my power to learn, educate myself, build influence in a way that I can go back home and lay my life on the line, because there's something special about being born in the country. You speak of sense of belonging, and I haven't been to Liberia in 29 years. I'm 32 years old, and you go around the world, and you're in people's spaces, and you try to build community, but there's just something different about being home. And so even that fight to want to go home, that fight to see peace, that fight to even go back and say, wow, my foot is on the soil of my birthplace. I think that for me is even motivating. And so I'm hoping to make that journey, soon, sometime, either this year, next year. I want to pivot into something else. Many of us struggle when it comes to talking about our accomplishments and achievements. Cultural and gender norms often, hinder our ability to do so, and oftentimes imposter syndrome prevent us from acknowledging that we're remarkable in all the attributes that we display. And so, is that something you're experiencing in your life today, given the experiences that you've had? Vlada, I can start with you.
So yeah, definitely. Like I feel that cultural norms and gender norms prevent us from seeing how beautiful and how remarkable we are. If we're talking about Ukraine, we have this thing like USSR in our past, and in the USSR, people were not allowed to be different. And it was dangerous to be powerful. It was dangerous to be remarkable. It was dangerous to be different, because you could have been killed like easily. And so people just try to save their children, and from the beginning, children heard that be humble, be modest, be quiet, and that's actually what I heard. And I'm so happy that things are changing right now for Ukraine and for the whole world. And people start talking about their achievements, because our achievements will not talk for themselves. We need ourselves to talk for our achievements. And also the imposter syndrome, I suffered from it as well. And I think it's a huge thing if we're talking about refugees, because I see lots of amazing, brilliant people who have the same what's that word in English? Hold on. Who have the same actual knowledge, and who have the degree, the university degree, and who are so scared to start the job, even to start looking for the job, because they think that they kind of worse than local people, and they're not used to the culture, they're not used to the customs, they're not used to how the system works, for example, in the UK or in other countries. And they're like, oh, we just can't do this. But no, you can, and you are remarkable, and you are amazing, and you are not worse than people from the country that you're in right now. You have the same knowledge, you have the same competence, and you're just brilliant to start doing what you want. And yeah, the imposter syndrome is a huge thing, I think, and also the gender norms.
What?
Yeah, I think I really agree with Blada about this. And also, I think, like, yeah, it's something we all learn in our own, like, houses with our parents about, like, don't brag about something you've done, or be like really humble, as you just said, Blada. But I think it's when we are now out in totally different community, and when we do something really remarkable, and so this remarkable stuff is different from one person to another. Like, people could do something here in in this country, and they are proud about or happy about, but, like, you don't know how far we've gone until we reach the same achievement. So even like simple things we've done in our life, after we lost everything, it means much more any normal achievement. And I think we have to learn, like, ourselves and other people around us, how to really celebrate all of these achievements, small or big. And I think really, like, for so long for me in Syria, just waking up alive was something very important and very big. And even now, like, for me, like, waking up every day, being able to get up from my bed, being able to face the life I'm facing now, looking at my kids being able to, like, active or function normally, is the big achievement. In some days where I really like, I don't want to live anymore, with looking at what's happening around the world, what's happening in my country. It's just a lot of things on our shoulders as a human being. So I think we have to learn how to celebrate this, how to share this with other people, and how even to be proud of people around us, even if this achievement looks really small.
I think, there's something to be said about just kind of owning your narrative. For the longest, I was ashamed of my experience. And so when you have shame, it's very difficult to add, kind of like joy and like positive attributes, when you're coming from a place of shame. Because as an African, a Black person in the United States, there are a lot of layers on your experience. And even the African, refugee experience is not elevated to the state of humanity. And so when you see TV, commercials, talking about where you from is very, like devastating, and nobody should want to go there. You kind of die inside a little bit. And so, fighting the urge to still find yourself and still find your voice, I think that in itself is success. And, even now, working at Google and having the opportunity to, provide for my family and be somewhat of a, model to people who might look for inspiration. I I lean in, like I lean in as much as I can, because there was a time when, my refugee experience wasn't meaningful enough. And, at least in the United States, there is a culture here that in order to feel accomplished or to speak loudly about your accomplishments, you need to reach a certain kind of like pedestal. You need to reach a certain space. And so I think for me that demarcation was like Google, because a lot of people was like, oh my God, Google, where are you from? Well, let me tell you where I started. And so now that I'm here, I try to use my voice as much as I can, because for what it's worth, imposter comes and goes, and it's important that we, remain kind of grounded and rooted in our why. Like for me, that keeps me going. Every room I step in, I always feel like an underdog. Either it is the fact that I'm a Black person in an all white space and my experience is not really, you know, relatable to the in the community that I'm in, or I'm an African refugee who, albeit Africa is now this place where people want to go, I haven't lived at home in freedom. And so I've been traversing the world in all these different spaces. And then it's like, oh, be great, or like bootstrap. And so I think our ability to even show up, in itself, motivates me, motivates, people around me. And so I just wanted to affirm, the different experiences that we all share as a throughput to the life that we're living. Um, at our remarkable, we celebrate the power of diversity. We would love to hear from you, both of you, on your perspective of how the refugees influences culture in the country that they live in. I'll start with you, Wad.
I'm really sorry. I'm gonna give this to Plada because she's the one who's totally working in this, and then I will follow up with you.
Go for
Yeah,
it. Go for it.
I have lots of things to say here. I was preparing for this. So yeah, I kind of had this conversation the other day with people from Great Britain, and they were like, "You are here, and you can't even imagine how much you give to our country." Because, for example, Ukrainian community is not fully settled in right now, but we've already had lots of events, and we've already started working, and we've already started working as self-employed people, and we've already launched our own businesses and gave spaces, workplaces for people who just came. And this is such a powerful thing, I think. And we share our culture as well. We have our cultural events. We share our food. We share our music. We share our actually potential with people. And I hear from local people that they are so proud of us, really. And talking about potential, for example, I will talk about examples from my own community. In West Sussex, we have a woman who's a massage therapist, and she is massage therapist for our Olympic team, for Ukrainian Olympic team, and she now can share her knowledge with all the other doctors and therapists from our West Sussex, and she's given the trainings. Also, we have founders of schools, very popular schools in Ukraine, who had to leave their countries, and now they share their experience as well. Also, we have psychologists who help now not only Ukrainian refugees but other people as well. They help in the community they're in now, and I helped also a talk with the job center with my job center coach, and he was so amazed by Ukrainian people, and he was like, well, you just came to a new country and you want to give back to this country in your hard situation. You want to give something to the country you're in right now. This is amazing. And I also know that in Brighton there is a huge community of refugees from Afghanistan and from Syria, and they open businesses from restaurants to IT companies. They give workplaces. They share culture, and I just find this really, really, really amazing. I have goosebumps every time I think about this, and I think this is something all the refugees should be proud of. We can share knowledge, we can share potential, and you can't even imagine how much potential we have. For example, talking about Ukraine, did you know that one of WhatsApp co-founders is Ukrainian? Also, Ukrainian directors make movies, and Ukrainian directors make makes not songs but song videos, music videos for Harry Styles and for Coldplay, for example. Ukrainians launch IT companies. Ukrainians launched Grammarly, and Grammarly is helping British people to improve their English now. And it was all made by Ukrainians, actually. And you can't even imagine how much potential a community has. And I'm talking about Ukrainians, but I saw the film that Rod made now, and I can't even imagine how powerful Syrian community is, and how powerful community of people from Afghanistan is, and African people is. It's just something that gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. So we pay taxes, we give workplaces, we share culture, we share knowledge. We are really, really, really powerful.
Yeah, and I think it's really just a very kind of this stereotype that so many, I would say, governments use, to make more fear into their citizen, and exactly what Blada said about who we are and what we're doing. Like we, all of us, I would say, we didn't leave our country because we got bored, because we want just an easy way. We were living in such a unbelievable like circumstances, and we were trying to do everything for within that circumstances. So imagine what the potential that we have to communicate and to like participate in a new communities where we really feel like safe and feel like good and feel also able to like empower ourselves and uh, develop our skills and do, you know, like from the basic things we could have done in our country to the extreme things, you know, we had to go through. So I just think really like um the whole world now, and I think actually the pandemic really showed people so much of what other people could do. So even within the NHS here in the UK, or even other countries around the world, you see like doctors from different nationalities. They were on the front line. They were doing what they were able to do as journalists. Um, I mean, I was filming in a hospital in Aleppo under shelling and bombing, and when the pandemic happened, I was one of the first people who went to film in a hospital here in London. You know, like we can contribute. This is now became like a second home for us, and we want this country to be better. We want the place where we live to be more safer and more better for us, for our children, for the new generation who's coming. So it's our responsibility as well as much as it's our right as well.
I think that's powerful. Like I I listen to music in America today and I hear Afro beats and I'm just like, wow, not saying that Afro beats or that, kind of influence was led through a refugee lens, but there's something that's rich in every culture that I think, is missing when we don't create spaces for people to be themselves. And the contributions of the United States, today, a lot of immigrants have kind of influenced culture as we know it. Vlada spoke to Ukrainian input in the tech scene, while you're speaking to your ability to kind of share light on very pivotal matters that impact humanity, not just our individual selves. And so I think it is extremely, critical to create space for people, especially coming from a, like a refugee background. You said something about, what, we didn't leave because we got bored. And I think that is something that is very much missing in the idea of who a refugee is and why people become refugees. you know I'm sure at one point, if I had a choice, like I would still choose the life, that we had. And one anecdote that I like to share: in 1993, before the war came to Monrovia and where we were living. My mom has this picture of me as a kid, standing by the fence, and we had a solar panel, and that never got lost on me. I see things, today, like solar panels are like inventive, or like the new wave of energy, storage and consumption. And then I think back in 93, in this small African country of Liberia, my house had a solar panel. And so what could have been, right, when people had the opportunity to live a more free life, to innovate and kind of build on their knowledge and technology. And all of these people are working, like their mothers, fathers, teachers, doctors, going into new environments and feeling very much limited because of all the stereotypes that we find out there. And I think this is the perfect segue, to this question. So for those of us today who haven't really, lived through the refugee experience, a lot of the knowledge people have is through, like seen through media. And oftentimes that perspective is skewed, right? And so what would you, with firsthand experience, share with the audience around what we do and don't see in the media about refugees and the experiences of refugees? I think Vlada, I'll go with you on this. You're on mute. Yay, I was hoping that we did that. 2020. Yay.
Done. So first of all, I think that media doesn't show even 1/10 of what refugees experience is and of what is happening in our country. I'm still really thankful to media for covering our stories and for having us on their pages. Because, for example, if you're talking about Ukrainian situation and Russian war in Ukraine, I think 10 years, if this was started 10 years ago, we would have, we wouldn't have had this support, and we probably just wouldn't have had the chance to win and to live, because media plays a very, very, very important role in all of this. So we are thankful to every media who helps us. But at the same time, I feel like people start getting tired of the war, and this is completely understandable and this is completely healthy. I don't have this privilege of getting tired of the war. So I'm a little like sad and frustrated here. And I realize that people just don't read the media anymore, and media just don't cover our topic anymore. Like, for example, the other day I was asked by my colleague if the war in Ukraine is still going on, or is it the peace now? And I was like, what? And the things get really worse from that time. So I feel like people really are tired, and media easily change attention, like switch the topics, like, okay, so today Ukrainian situation and the Russian war in Ukraine can be in the same like part in the media with some tigers that were born in the zoo. And people just want to be happy, and people just want to listen to happy and great news, and people just don't want to listen to the horror stories. And so this is kind of hard and frustrating, because I understand it on the one hand, but I just think that if we don't get this coverage, if we don't get the media on our side, we will just lose without it. So please don't give up on us. Please don't give up. I feel even guilty now because we have Bart here. And I think, like, what rights do I have to talk about media coverage of Ukraine situation and of Russian war in Ukraine if media is almost completely silent about Syria or Afghanistan now? And the things are still going on there. And we just, we don't have the chance to learn about it. So please don't give up on the territories, on the occupied territories, on the territories where the war is happening right now, because we need the support, and we do need the support to win.
Yeah,
and to live.
I really feel what you are referring to, because even if you look at Ukraine in the first like 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then now, it's like away, like far now.
Yeah.
It's not like how it was happening. And I remember, the first like couple of weeks, all the media, when we were talking on anything, like they were like, oh, they forget about Syria, or look how they like, even this question about like, oh, look how they react to Ukraine and they don't mention Syria. Even in the question there was like, intention to break up the stories instead of like really joining the story and sharing what's happened. And I always like referring to, like, no, don't look at Syria today after 11 years. Look at Syria in 3, 4 weeks when this happened. Everyone was talking about it. Don't look about Ukraine now, because even day after day, even the public, even the people, even the media, they are all like, like ignoring in one way or another. And I think the most important thing is the misinformation and the propaganda that Russia is using within the media, and how many media outlet they are contributing with this propaganda in one way or another. So I think our battle is so big, more than what even we could even imagine. And when you look for an example about Italy today, and the new government coming, and what they are talking about, like, for them, it's just unbelievable. I was really watching today, and they were totally referring to Russia and Syria, as allies, in a way that this is how we can protect our communities. So, like, it's just unbelievable, how so many like people change in one day or another. I think our battle is really, really so big, and the way how we can fight in this is just to keep telling the story, keep bringing the narrative from the first day until today. I know that the situation in Syria today is not good at all, but when I have to talk about Syria, I have to talk from the first day, from what happened, from how this started. We should not just like deal with the outcome of this or the causes of what happened. We always have to remember the first day, why this happened, who's responsible. Yeah, and I think that's the only thing we can do as individuals and well, even as organization and people. On Wikipedia, for an example, on when you write Syria and what happened, they call they call it as Syrian civil war, as Syrians killing each other. And it's not the situation, it's government against people. The power is not equal. So if we can keep mentioning to everyone we know about this, same about Ukraine, like I was so happy when they start call it like the Russian invasion, not the
Yeah.
Russian war on Ukraine. Like every thing we do, everything we say, it matter, and it contribute in the narrative that we want to have.
I'm getting goosebumps just listening to this because there are just a lot of throughput in like my experience and the experience of I guess underrepresentation. And so I'm wearing this shirt that says "Built in Tulsa." I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you don't know, Tulsa is a city that fostered this burgeoning Black community in the 1920s, and there were Black doctors, Black like hospitals, Black, pharmacists, and that community got burned down, because of like hatred and like, racism. And the narrative was, it was a riot. It wasn't until almost in 2020, when more light started to shine on the issues that, took place in Tulsa, that, people started to reframe the way to talk about what happened as a massacre, right? Because while to your point, the government and the people does not have the same power. When you have institutions, like taking narratives on one side, with an agenda to impact the lives of innocent people, that is not equal weight. I'm reflecting.
Especially like when your responsibility is to protect these people and you are killing these
It
people.
is
This
absolutely
is
not
can't be the same. Like
yeah. I'm reflected on actually your film for Sama. Something you said was that it's blood everywhere, right? When I close my eyes, I see red. When I cry, oftentimes I cry blood. And that's not dramatic. That was your reality, and I think that's the reality of a lot of people. And what the media does not do is really share lived experiences, right? As a young kid growing up on the refugee camp, I didn't know I was on the refugee camp. I was 3 years old, 4 years old, but I had to deal with life, like pretty quickly. And one of the things that would happen, almost frequently, on like a monthly or like bi-monthly basis, we'll have like these like soldiers break in at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and like you were sleeping on this like concrete floor with like this thin mat, or like whatever you have to sleep on, and they will just break in the door or wake you from your sleep and looking for like rebel soldiers, right? And I think like that was all institution, right? Like the government of Ghana wanted to make sure like their country stays safe, stay safe. But the reality is there are kids like me, waking up to guns and armed, soldiers, like putting you outside on the curb, waiting for you to like, search your house to see if there's any type of like assembly happening, to revolt. And so those experiences does not get told. And something else that I wanted to touch on is how media sensationalize, who gets the coverage, right? Or like what story gets told. Something that happened in a couple of years back in the U.S. There were Haitian migrants, trying to cross over the Rio Grande on the Texas border, and you saw sheriffs on like horses, with whips, significant of back in the Jim Crow days when they used to attack Black people just for existing. And so when those narratives don't get told, when we don't understand why people are fleeing their country, when we don't put humanity on the children, the people impacted by these circumstances, it becomes like this big picture thing where it's like, oh, forget the details. Like government is doing this and government is doing that. And so I think the role of media should be to interrogate the truth and like bring light to what the truth is, and stand tall in that, and that influences people around you. And so I think that that's such a critical component to storytelling, right? There are a lot of people that didn't get a chance to tell their own stories. And I told you I was watching for summer last night, tearing up because one of the doctors who's like dedicated his entire life during this entire time to save people, right? Ended up, in the hospital where he was doing good work to bring, life to people who like got killed. And so I think these stories matter. And the throughput here is, media has a critical role in telling the truth. But what we are seeing today is a lot of that is not kind of coming through. And so I applaud you both for your courage and your strength to keep telling the stories. It's tiring, right? And so I know you're doing great work. So thank you for that. I want to move on to our last question. And then for the audience, we would love to hear from you. So please ask questions. How can we as individuals be supportive of those affected by refugee crisis? We as in, all of us in this global community. And what can this I'm remarkable community do to bring about positive change in an effective way?
I would really like start with the last point we were talking about, which is saving the narrative, talking out. Like everyone who has audience, even if your audience, like if you're a mom or a dad and your audience is your little kids, you have to teach everyone that the world is not just our house or where we are. And like beyond this, to what's happening in Ukraine, to what's happening in Syria, to what's happening in Afghanistan, to other people, to understand, like that all of us have like one destiny, like we have all to share and to be like sympathy with each other. If you have refugees in your community around where you are, like please do reach out to them, help them in any possible way, in a work, in a even like a conversation, even to welcoming them, to let them talk and speak out about what they are fearing from what's they are going through. I really feel everyone can participate in one possible way. If you are an artist, please do your art about these places, talk about all these unprivileged people, all this like circumstances, whatever it was, individually, community, whatever is it, we all can be part of this. um yeah, that's I think the main thing I would say. Lada.
I strongly agree with you. I think this is so important. I also would say, like, let's prevent the refugee crisis by calling the wrong wrong, and by educating ourselves, and by taking care and thinking about political situation and not being afraid of the word politics. Also, I would ask, like, please do listen to refugees, and please do listen and hear what they say, and to listen how they call things. Because, for example, the language matter. I had a talk with a group of people the other day who were calling the war in Ukraine a Ukrainian war, and I was like, well, it's not a Ukrainian war, it's Russian invasion in Ukraine. And I understand perfectly well that these people didn't have any bad intentions, but this is the picture that we create by saying something. So let's listen to the refugees and let's call the things what they call it, because they obviously were inside and they obviously see better. Let's also take care about refugees' mental health and remember that it's much harder for them than it seems and then it looks. And even if the refugee is smiling and coping with everyday life, it doesn't mean that this refugee is not crying at night in the bedroom. And also, I think let's empower our youth. One thing I wanted to mention is very important to empower the young refugees, because they find it really hard to be in a new community, in a new society, and going through the puberty and the struggles of finding their way. And it's like really, really important that we support and empower our youth. For example, I had a conversation the other day, like a couple of years ago, when I was working as a tour guide. I was giving a tour to Ukrainian kids in Oxford, and they were like, "Oh, Oxford is such a huge scene. Like, we don't even think about entering this university because we can't." And I was like, well, again, talking about the imposter syndrome. Why? Like, you are not worse than other people, and other people can, so you can as well. And now I'm so proud knowing that some of those kids that I was talking with about Oxford are entering Oxford University this year. And let's create all the opportunities for our kids and for our youth, for the refugee youth, because they are our future.
Remarkable. I think what I would add to that is just, like, we are humans first, right? Like, the human experience is universal. Like, we cry, we feel pain, we feel sorrow. Some of us come with more trauma, than others, but creating space for people to exist as they are, I think that would be my thing to folks looking to find, ways to help refugees. And it's very small, it's very simple, something you can own and kind of be in control of. Another thing is just educate yourself, right? I think we're in this age of, information overflow, but information misuse. And so being, educated about the issues around the world, what I do, at least every morning, I try to listen to global news to get an understanding of what's happening in other places, so that I'm not removed from the realities of people that look like me and people around the world. And so want to thank you for, your experiences. Thank you for sharing. Open up to the audience for questions. I believe we should have questions coming in any moment now. Let's see. We have a question from Dominic for Vlada. Do you have hope that the growing social and political domestic pressures within Russia will be the turning point in the war in Ukraine's favor?
I do have this hope. So yeah, the first thing that I think is going to be the turning point is arming Ukraine, of course. But I do think that it will be a turning point one day. We just need to help it happen. So current social and political domestic pressure will definitely help, because I think that people should learn about how to take responsibility for their actions and how to take responsibility for not taking actions. And yeah.
Thank you. We have a question from Lauren. We've talked about how the media moves on and doesn't tell a full story. If you could have a front page article in a newspaper or magazine tomorrow about this topic, what would you want it to be? And I'll go with you on this one.
I think I really would have it like the headline would be like, "It's not a civil war," and it's about Syria. Because for me, it's really, really explaining everything and explaining, like, not just like what happened, but also how the future should look like, when we point at the criminals, not just about at the crimes, when we not use like passive voice, as so many channels and people would use like, oh, a hospital was bombed in Syria. Like, who bombed this hospital? It's not like an earthquake, it's not like a volcano. So I think, yeah, this is for me always like, by who, who did this is very important.
Yeah, I think, accountability is very critical. And what I see that is not really talked about is the people who, perpetuate these atrocities oftentimes are close to the media. And so the narrative about who's accountable doesn't really get told. If I had the opportunity to write, a newspaper, especially, looking at the Liberian Civil War and where we are today, I would say give the children hope, because my entire life from today and, the past, couple of years, moving forward, it's about the children of Liberia. I think if I can create opportunities for children to learn tech, to learn, different skills, and be empowered for a future that they feel like they can stay home now that there is relative peace, I think that would be great.
Yeah, mine one would be about, I obviously have lots, but one of the things I can think right now is free Azovstal defenders, because we had a huge battle in Mariupol, and unfortunately our army lost, unfortunately, and so we have lots of political prisoners, and they are treated really awful and horrible. And we had more than 2,000 political prisoners. They moved to Russia and be kept in Russia. So please do talk about it, because we really want, there are women and kids and mothers who are waiting for them in Ukraine. We can't do everything. We can't protect ourselves if you help us to arm our army. We are ready to fight for our freedom, but we need somebody by our sides to fight for those people who will help us in future if they come back home.
Thank you. Final question. What is your dream? What do you wish for yourself in 5 years?
I mean, my dream really to wake up one day and see that like Assad's under accountability, to see all the people who committed crimes, from like the Russian officials to the Syrian regime, starting from Assad, going down to all the people who were amplifying or like doing the order on the ground. Um, in 5 years, I don't know where I would be. I'm afraid to find myself in the same place, keep talking about Syria like something happened in the past and urging people that this is still happening. I wish to be able to go back to Syria, to my house, to where I was, where when a real political change would be happening.
I wish I'm not gonna cry. I wish that our kids in Ukraine will live without the fear of Russian invasion anymore. I wish our kids in Ukraine will live happy and peaceful life. And I wish my parents will live a happy and peaceful life as well. And I wish we just forget it as a bad, 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 horrible dream. But we just forget the horror that happened to us, but we still keep in mind who caused that horror and what was happening, so the future generations will learn their lessons. And I wish that in 5 years, I would say that I wish in 5 years we would not be bordering with Russia, but that's impossible, unfortunately. So yeah, I wish in 5 years we just all live a peaceful life, and I am back in Ukraine, and my mother, my dad, my family, my grannies, and my cats, and all my friends' kids just live a happy and peaceful life in a developing country, in a fantastic, fast-growing, amazing country.
I hope all your wishes, come true. I think everyone deserves, to believe in that hope. And so for me, right about now, it's a very simple dream that I have. I want to wake up in Liberia, like a lot of the spaces I share, I have to fight my way to belong. And I didn't really have full consciousness at 3 to know like I belonged home, but that was my home. And so I can't wait for the moment that I sleep in Liberia, breathe the air in Liberia. I surf Liberian waters, eat food made by Liberians in Liberia. And it sounds very simple, but for me, it's such an inflection point, right? Everyone I'm around, at least it seems like they feel like they belong where they are. And so I wish that for myself or at least that's my dream. And then my 5-year plan is to hopefully open a tech innovation hub for young Liberians, so that they can have an opportunity to get out of the economic poverty that was created by the war. And so we've had an amazing conversation. Thank you for allowing me to be your host. Just such remarkable experiences that you shared. Something that we do during I Am Remarkable Week is actually state why we are remarkable. And so I want to pass on to you, Wad, to tell us, I am remarkable because.
Okay, it's hard for me, but I will do my best. I think I am remarkable because I still believe in freedom and dignity within all the lack of justice that I've been through every single day since the revolution started. I'm remarkable because I'm still able to wake up every day and do everything I'm doing like if the freedom of my country will be today.
Goosebumps. I'm remarkable because I'm Ukrainian. I'm remarkable because I'm doing the hard job that needs to be done to raise awareness about Ukraine and to support my community and to do my part of my frontline job. I'm remarkable because I'm in a new country, in a new society, having a new job, and I still manage to handle it all and to keep my priorities in my own country and help my own country.
I would say I'm remarkable because I still show up in spite of everything that I've experienced and in spite of everything that I will experience. I choose life, I choose myself, and I know that by showing up, I will have the opportunity to influence and impact the lives of others. And so I want to say a huge thank you, Vlada Wad. It's been such an honor to have this conversation with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know we're in separate countries, but I can feel the energy and it's real. So I appreciate you. Keep on the journey that you're on, and your voice is so louder and louder than you think. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
We'll close out with their upcoming events for I Am Remarkable Week. I believe there are awards happening tomorrow, and so please check the I Am Remarkable calendar. And as a closing statement from me, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time. Don't forget to stay tuned to these events, and I appreciate your time. And feel free to reach out to our panelists, reach out to myself. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye bye.